Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is a massive crossover of some of the biggest and most popular characters in video game history. It's a huge achievement. Just look at this roster of like 90 characters, most of them being instantly recognizable by anyone. Okay, now imagine there are two guys mixed into all this named Big O Blast and Doorward, and it's never elaborated on. We're just supposed to accept this. Super Smash Flash was a Flash game released in 2006 based on Super Smash Bros. Melee for the GameCube. It was pretty notable for being one of the first Smash fan games. The only earlier one I knew about was Super Smash X, and this came a lot closer to the real thing. It's a lot more limited than its official Nintendo counterpart, but Super Smash Flash was a lot of fun, despite its many, quirks. Floating Islands is such a good level that they updated the game later with the option to skip it entirely. This game's notorious for being a little bit silly, but I really like it. A bunch of characters from Melee appear, like Mario, Samus, Link, and Fox. There's some other video game characters like Meta Knight, Sonic the Hedgehog, Mega Man, and Cloud Strife, who appeared in this fan game years before appearing in any official Smash Bros. Games. They were kinda just throwing in whoever. Naruto, Inuyasha, and Mr. Incredible show up in this too. It's truly a game that only could have existed as a 2006 Flash. But who are Blade and Blue? They look like Sonic characters, spin dash like Sonic characters, but both of them run around with swords, and I had never heard of either of these guys as a kid. I assumed they were Sonic characters. It's pretty common knowledge now that these were Sonic fan characters, but there is a lot more to the story than you might think. After beating the game's adventure mode, the credits say that their sprites are edits of Flare the Hedgehog created by someone called Equinox Twilight. To talk about these hedgehogs, first we gotta talk about this hedgehog. Flare is an original Sonic fan character who appeared in a series of sprite animations called Knuckles Adventure, posted on Newgrounds.com by the user Haran Bago. This person also created the first ever ROM hack for Knuckles Chaotix. That's not relevant, but I thought it was interesting. But their web series Knuckles Adventure is relevant. Just to set the tone for what this is, the first scene in the entire series is Knuckles the Echidna saying to himself, "Why do girls take so damn long to go to the bathroom?" shortly before Mighty the Armadillo shows up to his house drunk. Episodes of this series ran from 2003 to 2005, and was a series of sprite animations following the adventures of Knuckles. It's extremely crude and vulgar and exactly what you'd expect from a Newgrounds sprite animation in 2003. Episode 4 opens with Inuyasha from Inuyasha killing Rouge the Bat, and then Link from Zelda starts cooking her corpse. Chester the Cheetah shows up at one point, and it's wild to me that this isn't even the only Sonic fan series I've seen to feature this dude. There are 9 episodes up on Newgrounds, though according to Sonic Retro there were 10 episodes. Either 10 never released, or it was deleted and became lost media. Oh my god, lost media reference? Or Sonic Retro is inaccurate, I don't know. The storyline of Knuckles Adventure isn't important. I just wanted to stress, it's pretty weird. It's a lot more underground than like Super Mario Bros. Z or Final Fantasy Sonic or anything like that, but it was decently popular during that era. Anyway, episode 7. This dude Flare the Hedgehog shows up with sprites created by Equinox NE, or Equinox Twilight. Flare is this cool red hedgehog with a sword, and he has a fight with Inuyasha. He also appeared in the short-lived 2-episode K.A. Omake side series, a collaboration between Haran Bago and Equinox Twilight. All of this to say, this is where the sprite for Blade in Super Smash Flash originated from. Another dude, TopCat13, who also sometimes went by Blade the Hedgehog, we're gonna call him TopCat13, edited these sprites of Flare the Hedgehog to use for Blade the Hedgehog, a new Sonic OC, otherwise unrelated to Equinox and Knuckles Adventure. Does that make sense? The influence is obviously there, but these are considered to be separate characters. So, back to Super Smash Flash, created by Cloud9 in 2006, a year after the final episode of Knuckles' Adventure was published. Before this eventually became a Flash version of Super Smash Bros. Melee, it was originally envisioned as a Sonic the Hedgehog fan game starring this guy Blade as the main character. The original demo for Smash Flash only has two characters, Blade and Samus. Blade was the first character in Smash Flash. The game was kind of built around his existence. And then Blue, another new original character, shows up as an unlockable. And you know what? Creating what is the biggest Smash Bros. Fan game up to that point, and including two original Sonic fan characters your buddy made alongside all these gaming icons, is honestly such a power move. Crazy flex. Smash Flash wasn't technically the first thing Blade appears in. He was on a logo in Super Gear Solid, a Mario sprite animation that was published a month before Super Smash Flash. But this is his first, real appearance, you know? But anyway, there's a handful of connections between Super Smash Flash and the Knuckles Adventure series. A lot of the same characters appear, like obviously Knuckles and the Sonic cast, as well as some other popular Nintendo characters, but Inuyasha appearing in both is kinda interesting. A bunch of the characters like Mario, Link, Sheik, and Pikachu all use the same custom sprites between both projects. Maybe some of this is just coincidence, but with Flare the Hedgehog inspiring Blade and Blue, I feel like Cloud9 was probably a fan, or at the very least aware of Knuckles' adventure. I mean, we know for sure Top Cat 13 very much was. The official home of these characters beyond Super Smash Flash would be Kingdom Castle Animations. The site had forums, sprite sheets, and Mission Complete, Top Cat's sprite comic series based on the Star Fox games, which also uses the same custom sprite of Fox that appeared in Super Smash Flash, which is an edited sprite of Mega Man from Mega Man 8, and would be edited again to create sprites of their Top Cat persona. I don't know if this is interesting to anyone else, but I'm fascinated seeing the same custom sprites reappearing. Mission Complete shows us the adventures of Fox McCloud and Falco Lombardi as they adventure through video game worlds. They run around the Mushroom Kingdom for a while, Luigi dies, then they spend some time in the Mega Man world. These are being created and uploaded weekly for a good bit. There's some extra lore on the series featured on the character bio page. Fox McCloud, a good leader, although a little naive and possibly homosexual. James McCloud, the father of Fox McCloud. Surprisingly, like everyone else, he believes his son is also gay, and thusly usually only helps everyone else. What are you talking about? None of this is ever actually brought up in the comic. They just really want you to know that James McCloud is extremely homophobic off-screen somewhere. That's not cool. Anyway, the big thing on Kingdom Castle Animations I want to focus on is Blade vs. Blue fan service, released the year after Smash Flash on April 1st, 2007. BVB fan service fully features Blade and Blue, who have new redesigned sprites as they decide to have a friendly sparring match, and the winner is chosen by you, the viewer. I can't get over how cool these two look here. What a glow up for both of them. The whole animation is pretty cool, and it's pretty nice seeing them appear in something outside of Smash Flash for the first time, but after the fight, there's some other really interesting details. There's a super secret sneak peek thing of a brand new third OC, Mastruck Gyros, Blade's first student, a big tease for the next project, whatever that may be. There's some cool stuff in the credits too. The shading for Blade was apparently done by someone named Spike Man, who we'll bring up again later. The song that plays in this is Memories of Pain by Cloud9, the creator of Super Smash Flash. It wouldn't be released publicly anywhere until February of 2009 on Cloud's Newgrounds and McCloudGaming.com under the title The Original Blade. With Blade and Blue set to return in the upcoming Super Smash Flash 2, the future was looking bright for the duo, right? We'll talk more about that after the break.
Hooray! Yay!
Hooray!
Finally, all our favorite characters are in Smash.
Mario, Link, Sonic, Samus, Pikachu, and Blade.
Woohoo!
As you can see, no one is unlocked.
We have a limited roster, but at least we have Blade.
At least we have Blade. Around the same time of Blade and Blue fan service in 2007, development began on Super Smash Flash 2, a much bigger and more ambitious project than the original Smash Flash that would play a lot closer to the official Smash games. The trailer showed off a bunch of new characters like Ichigo, Sora, Goku, and Azriel, another original character who was created by Frat, a member of the McLeod Gaming forums. Other original characters set to appear were Robo Ninja, Spike Man, yes, the same Spike Man who did the shading on Blade, and of course, Blade and Blue would be making a return, complete with their new redesigns. All of the original characters were from folks who were active on the McLeod Gaming forums back in the day, and most of these threads where their stuff would have been posted were never archived, which is unfortunate. Super Smash Flash 2 would receive regular-ish updates for years, and nearly 20 years later is still getting updates? But you might notice a couple characters seem to be missing from the original plan to the current roster. On May 19th, 2012, McLeod announced that the final roster for the game would be different from the original reveal, and that all of the original characters would not be appearing due to them not being up to the game's standards in quality and relevancy, and many of the original creators of said fan characters left long ago. So instead of Blade and Blue, we got Waluigi and Luffy One Piece. So, if Top Cat 13 left McLeod Gaming, what happened to them after that? Well, nobody really knows. That Blade and Blue animation in 2007 was the final post on Kingdom Castle Animations, and the website would shut down in 2014. Cloud9 has been asked about Top Cat, but has said that they lost contact years ago. Their DeviantArt account has been inactive since 2007, and their Newgrounds even longer. They posted on the site for their Mission Complete comic on March 22nd, 2009 that they're still alive, but as far as anyone can tell, this was the last thing they posted anywhere. And that site would go down eventually as well, the entire Mission Complete series seemingly becoming lost media for a bit. Thankfully, what is, I believe, the complete series is saved on the Internet Archive, link in the description to that. This is kinda just how the internet goes. Sometimes, people disappear, they move on, live offline. There's tons of people I played online games with who logged off one day and, for one reason or another, never logged back in. Especially in cases like this, where we're talking about people who were teenagers or in their early 20s creating stuff online. Doing that thing you did as a kid forever isn't everyone's path in life. It would be so funny if this video was the last thing I ever published online. The original Super Smash Flash was a special game for me. It was recommended to me by a friend, and I found it on some website I'd never heard of. It had this aura of mystery around it. This was the first fan game I'd ever played, and it felt like anything could happen. I could unlock Super Sonic, Mr. Incredible could show up for some reason, and the existence of these two Sonic OCs mixed into the cast fueled that aura of mystery. Despite having a very short-lived run, Blade and Blue are remembered fondly by those who played the original Smash Flash. They still get fan art. Over the years, they've been modded into Super Smash Bros. Brawl, Super Smash Bros. Crusade, another Smash fan game, Super Smash Flash 2, and there's even a really cool mod that updates their sprites in the first Smash Flash to their redesigns that came the following year. God, they're so cool! Blade and Blue themselves didn't really do anything else outside of Smash Flash except fight one time in an animation. But because they showed up in a very popular Flash game, they're basically immortalized as legends in a very specific online sphere. And that's beautiful. All of this stuff, there's this whole hidden corner of the internet that we really only know about because these two happen to be in Smash Flash. Ignore the fact that they maybe only exist because of it. There is so much stuff like this that exists out there under our noses. Characters, worlds, stories that we'll never discover because they weren't lucky enough to have ties to the 14th most popular game in Newgrounds.com history. So go out there and go find something. Go scour the internet. Look for someone else's weird corner. Lift them up. Encourage them to keep on creating. And if you're out there creating, keep on doing it. Because eventually, all of us are going to log off for the last time. Not me, though. I'm never touching grass.